This video is brought to you by Straight Goods News, Canada's alternative online news source. Visit straightgoods.ca.
Tuesday, December 6th, and I'm talking to NDP leadership contender Niki Ashton. Please tell us, Niki, how you got involved in politics and what brought you into the leadership race.
Well, I guess I've spent a life growing up in an NDP family and in an NDP community, but had my own direction about the kind of work that I wanted to do, for human rights and development and the kinds of things that are important to us as New Democrats. But I found in 2005, 4 and 5 actually, that the debate around same-sex marriage and the strong position our party took on human rights was a very important one. And at the time, our MP from Northern Manitoba, who was NDP, didn't support same-sex marriage, and there were many of us in our constituency that felt that was not okay, and that we as New Democrats needed to stand up and say that human rights and whether it's LGBT rights or other human rights are critical in our society. So I got involved with the nomination. We ended up winning the nomination. We ran in the 2006 election. Unfortunately, we got second place, which was it was an exciting run. But then I took some time to continue to do the work I was doing. I was teaching at the time at the University College of the North and working on my PhD through the University of Manitoba.
What was your PhD in?
It's in a program called Peace and Conflict Studies, and I've been looking at, it's interdisciplinary politics and economics, looking often at gender, issues of gender, and it's still something that I'm carrying through my work politically, and I believe it's critical to have that connection between research and academic thought and the kinds of challenges we're facing politically in our country. So then the 2008 election came around. I ran for the nomination. We was not challenged by anybody, and I had the chance to represent us as in the NDP in Churchill, and we won, and was re-elected in May of 2011. I went from being the youngest woman in the House of Commons to not one of the oldest, but definitely, along with so many young people and young women that were sent, many of them from Quebec, but also from across Canada, as part of the dynamic NDP official opposition in the House of Commons.
Now, you're running against some very experienced opponents in the leadership race. Why do you think, what's the contribution you can make? Why do you think you can win, and what do you bring into it?
Mm-hmm. Well, our campaign's about new politics. I mean, I think many Canadians are tired, not just New Democrats and progressive Canadians, but increasingly a larger number of Canadians are tired with Stephen Harper's Conservatives' antics. Whether it's the ideological, agenda that he constantly pushes now that he's got a majority government, or the undemocratic means that he's applied to a number of debates and critical issues we need to be looking at closely in our country, and the politics of division that sets to pit East versus West, rural versus urban, people of different backgrounds, all in the name of scoring political points in his mind. And what we've said is that we as New Democrats have a chance to build on Jack Layton's work and the work of the NDP very recently and NDP principles from day one, and say that we want to bring new politics to Canada, new politics that sees equality as being key, and not just in terms of the politics we do, but the kind of reality we want to have. And that means making sure that we're fighting gender inequality, discrimination, the intense poverty that Aboriginal people face, looking at the erosion of collective bargaining rights and the loss of control of our economy, and noting that structural inequality is very much connected to the fact that we have less and less control over our economy, and we've got a government that doesn't stand up for the quality of life of working people and people who are struggling in our society. So that's that's the debate we're bringing forward, and an eagerness to engage the disengaged. I mean, I come from a generation that is notoriously disengaged, but political in so many other ways, and I think it's critical for our movement in the NDP to engage not just young people, but others that feel that they've been marginalized by politics as such. And I also feel that it's critical for us to move forward towards the goal of building government, and that means holding on to our support in Quebec. And I'm proudly bilingual, and I've had the chance to do quite a bit of work in Quebec. But I also come from Western Canada, which is a part of the country that is largely, I would say, misrepresented, with very few voices in the NDP, when in fact there's a strong grassroots movement, and we need to win in Western Canada. And with those two pillars, we're going to win government and create an NDP government that represents all Canadians.
What is the new element in your position, in your platform? Most of the issues you listed were fairly traditional NDP issues. What's the new element that you bring?
Well, as a New Democrat, I mean, my principles very much are the ones that have built our party, and that's definitely critical in the campaign we've got. In terms of new politics, I mean, it ranges from rising above the old politics of Stephen Harper, of the politics of division, the politics of failing to listen to people, the politics of saying that inequality is just a fact of life, and challenging that and saying that there's a new way of thinking about things, that we need to work together, that we need to, when we're talking about equality, it's not just a nice sounding word, and it means a whole host of inequalities that need to be taken on, and the kind of society we want to have. And new politics also means a new way of thinking about who politicians are, and I stated it in our launch, and I've said it again, is I'm proud to come from the Jack Layton generation, a generation that was inspired by Jack Layton's work, and somebody who felt strongly about the role and voice of young people. And in new politics, a 33-year-old woman can become the Prime Minister of Canada if she gets the support of Canadians.
What do you think needs to change in the NDP?
Well, I would say that I'm proud of where the NDP has come. I mean, we're in the historic position of being the official opposition, which shows that people have really see the value of the work we've done, and see us as being the voice of people, and we've got tremendous diversity in our caucus, both in terms of gender, age, background, but also where we come from across the country. And I think that's something that Canadians watch for in who's representing them and who they want to govern them. So I think we're in a positive direction, and I think we need to hold on to our principles and make sure that we're working from them as we go forward to face the challenges of tomorrow, in terms of the economy, in terms of the environment, in terms of supporting diversity and standing up for arts and culture in our country.
Do you have any interest in the talk of merger or cooperation with the Liberal Party for the NDP?
What is important for us in the NDP is to be welcoming to people, to progressive Canadians and Canadians that like what they're hearing from us, that like the way that we represent the issues of everyday Canadians. And I believe that the merger, the direction in terms of a merger, isn't the best way to go forward. What we need to be looking at is building a strong New Democratic Party alternative and a strong NDP that will lead us to government in 2015.
You come from rural Western Northern Canada. The province next door to you used to be an NDP stronghold. Now it's a Conservative stronghold, Saskatchewan. What's going to turn around places like Saskatchewan?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a definite active base of New Democrats in Saskatchewan, many who are part of our campaign, and many who are supportive and certainly interested in what we're talking about more generally here in the House of Commons. People in Saskatchewan, but also in Manitoba, we've only got 2 NDP MPs at this point, and even in Alberta, I would say, they realize that much of Stephen Harper's power comes from our part of the country in terms of how many people are elected to the Conservative Party. And the message we're hearing from people is people are feeling that they're not being heard, not being heard by Harper and his team. I would use the example of the Canadian Wheat Board as perfect and an indication. A plebiscite by the Canadian Wheat Board indicated that a majority of farmers, all in Western Canada, felt that the Wheat Board worked well for them. yet Mr. Harper not only refrained to hold a vote of his own, but he turned around and said, we don't care what opposition there is to our plan. We're going steadfast ahead with it. And that certainly has made people really take a second look at it's a very difficult situation for many Western farmers, but also Western Canadian communities. And I think what a lot of people are seeing is that Stephen Harper's taking them for granted. And it's up to us in the NDP to work with people on the ground in Western Canada to have them understand that we are their voice in Parliament. I was very proud to stand with my colleagues and fight to save the Canadian Wheat Board, and we're going to continue to fight not just for the Wheat Board, but also the issues that matter to Western Canadians and rural and Northern Canadians as well. And that way we need to work with people on the ground, and we need to work towards electing new Democrats from Western Canada and across the country.
Finally, you're 33, you're a second-term MP, you come from a remote riding. They've got a lot of challenges in this race. What are your next steps to get elected as leader of the NDP?
Well, I'm actually on the age front. I'm actually 29, so in 4 years I'll be 33. But which is also part of new politics and the exciting work that we're doing here in the House with a lot of young people. We just had our first debate and here in Ottawa. A lot of positive feedback, a lot of people that took note of the issues that we were talking about.
Did you attract some new supporters?
Yes, actually, a number of people got in touch, and we shared our message about new politics. I was proud to be able to speak directly to the campaign, our 10-point economic plan, and generally our view that equality is a central defining issue for us as New Democrats, and that we need a strong agenda in establishing and making that equality a reality in our country. And a lot of people were excited. We got messages from across the country. We're going to continue to travel across Canada. I've been to 7 provinces already. We're going to continue going from community to community, sitting down with people, listening to their issues and engaging them in our campaign of new politics, and always with the idea that our goal here is to make a stronger official opposition and if I get elected, to build towards an NDP government in 2015.